Chapter 4461 Looked down on the world. Aojis face instantly stiffened. Shengzun. Why was Shengzun here? Mo Wan's reaction was even more exaggerated. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Although they had heard that Shengzun had appeared in the Dark Continent, there had been no news of him since then. Why had he suddenly appeared here? Shengzun's position in the hearts of the Yan tribesmen was like the ghost ancestor to the ghost clan. Not to mention Aog, the crown prince, even the Yan emperor was nothing in front of Shengzun. Aog turned around stiffly, only to see a man wearing a silver mask slowly walking over under the moonlight. Although that man was only wearing plain white clothes, and although one could not see the man's face clearly, the dignity of looking down on the world made people involuntarily want to kneel down. He Xinjiu was stunned at first, then revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Wasn't this her gigolo? TSK, this way of appearing with an aura was really pretentious. Mo Wan was overwhelmed by the huge pressure and knelt down on the ground with a plop. Aojis' forehead was full of cold sweat. He wanted to persevere, but he still could not withstand the pressure of the Shengzun and knelt down on the ground. The pride in Aojis' heart seemed to have been forcefully crushed by someone. He did not even dare to have the slightest bit of resistance. Was he the Shengzun? In front of this person, he could not help but feel inferior. Such a difference was like the bright moon and the candle flame. There was no comparison at all. The Shengzun did not say anything. He did not even look at Aog and the Yan race soldiers. His gaze fell straight on Yunchujiu. Even though she had transformed into an unfamiliar appearance, he only needed a glance to know that this was his little Jiu. Yunchujiu originally wanted to laugh, but unknowingly, her face was already filled with tears. She revealed a bright smile with tears. You're back. Yes, I'm back. These two simple sentences were filled with a strong longing. Yunchujiu threw herself into the Lord's embrace and began to cry. The Lord tightened his grip on her and Shengzun's eyes were sparkling. The others were confused when they saw the two embracing each other. What? What was going on? How did the Yan clan's Shengzun get involved with a ghost girl? What did he mean by coming back? Wasn't it said that Princess Mei Yan of the ghost clan was infatuated with Shengzun? Besides, how old was Qing Luo? How could she get involved with Shengzun? He Xinjiu wiped her tears and said fiercely, Prince Charming, they bullied me. You have to avenge me. That Aog is so shameless that he wants to take me as his concubine. As soon as Yunchujiu finished her words, everyone felt as if their necks were strangled, and they couldn't breathe. Especially Aog, whose face was as pale as paper. He couldn't even maintain his kneeling position and collapsed on the ground. Your Excellency, I don't know her. She is your woman. Please forgive me. Aog said with difficulty. The Lord gave him a cold glance and raised his hand. Aog could even feel the shadow of death looming over him. He Xinjiu quickly said, Male God, please show mercy. Although this Aog is annoying, he is the crown prince of the Yan clan after all. Moreover, he is quite formidable in the war. Let him deal with that old witch, Mei Yan. Since little Jiu is pleading for you, then I will spare you temporarily. All of you, get up. Shengzun said indifferently. Chapter 4462 was given to her little Jiu. Aojis' heart trembled. Perhaps he was thinking too much. It was probably just a coincidence. Little Jiu should be in King Luo's nickname. Moreover, Yunchujiu should be in the towering sky continent. How could she come to the ghost region? It was impossible that she was Yunchujiu. Although many thoughts flashed through Aojis' mind for a moment, his expression had already regained its calmness. After he stood up, he did not say anything. He just stood there with his hands hanging down with a pale face. He was very unwilling to accept this. The ghost region was just around the corner, but the Lord wanted to help Qing Luo capture Princess Mei Yan. Wouldn't all his previous efforts be in vain? However, no matter how unwilling he was, he did not dare to reveal the slightest bit of it. In front of this man, all the things that he was proud of had turned to dust. However, he was very glad that this Ng Ching Luo was just like Yun Chuzhou. If she really was Yun Chuzhou, then he would be even more desperate. Because, he did not dare and could not compete with this man. Yun Chuzhou's eyes were as bright as the stars in the sky. She felt that her taste was really good. Prince Charming, now that that old witch, Princess Mei Yan, is not prepared at all, why don't we just kill our way to the imperial palace? The Lord nodded. Then we will attack the imperial city as you say. Aog, are you not satisfied? Do you think I have ruined your plan? Sheng Zun asked. Aog was swept by the Lord's glance, and his face turned pale again. He mumbled, no, no. No or dare not say. Sheng Zun said faintly. Aog gritted his teeth, he said with the determination to die, Your Excellency, I really don't understand. The situation is good now. As long as you lead us, we can easily occupy the ghost territory. Do you really have to give up for a woman? Sheng Zun's voice was slightly cold. If little Jiu wants it, she can give it to 3,000 continents, not to mention a mere ghost territory. He Xinjia's smile became even brighter when she heard that. The pretty boy was getting better at talking after going out. Aoj's face stiffened. He was shocked but also a little disdainful. This Sheng Zun was too sentimental, wasn't he? It was really disappointing that he could say such words. At this moment, Sheng Zun's cold voice sounded again. Besides, I'm doing this for the sake of your lives. Do you think that the cultivation speed in the ghost realm is very fast, so you think that the ghost realm is more suitable for the Yen clan? Hearing the Lord's question, Aoj's heart tightened. What did he mean by that? The Lord paused for a moment and said, although the Yen clan and the ghost clan have some similarities, they are different after all. There won't be anything wrong in the short term. However, after more than a year, the sudden increase in cultivation will cause your bodies to explode and you will die. If you don't believe me, you can look inside your dantian and you will find that your dantian is different from the past. Aog, Mo Wan, and the others quickly looked inside their dantian. To their horror, they found that their dantian seemed to have grown a lot bigger than before. According to this speed, the Lord was not exaggerating when he said that their bodies would explode and they would die. Aoj's face immediately turned ashen. If he had not forced himself to be paralyzed on the ground, he finally understood why Princess Mei Yan had allowed his power to expand again and again. It turned out that all of this was just her conspiracy. No wonder, according to the records, although the Ghost Clan and the Yen Clan had some dealings, no one from the Yen Clan had settled in the Ghost region. It turned out that this was the real reason. Chapter 4463, Get Lost. The soldiers of the nightmare race were thrown into a riot, and then they knelt on the ground. Sheng Zun was indeed Sheng Zun, always able to save them from trouble. Facing the shouts of the soldiers of the nightmare race, Sheng Zun just waved his hand to let them stand up and said to Aog, I believe that you were able to return to the Dark Continent and enter the Ghost region because someone was plotting behind the scenes, right? You were merely being used as knives. If my guess is correct, that person is from the Divine Devil Hall, right? Aog no longer had the slightest bit of arrogance from before. He nodded with difficulty, Your Excellency, your guess is correct. It was indeed the people from the Divine Devil Hall who helped us return to the Dark Continent and helped us find the passage to enter the Ghost Realm. The Lord did not continue to ask, but said coldly, surround the Imperial City first and capture Princess Mei Yan before we talk. Sheng Zun's voice was cold, but he did not say anything. Aog still had quite a number of Ghost Clan members on his side, but now that they saw the Lord, how could they have the slightest bit of resistance? Moreover, they knew that the Princess Mei Yan in the palace was fake, so they followed the Yen clan's army to the Imperial City on their own initiative. Sha Wuhan and the others were completely dumbfounded. Little Jiu's lover was the Yen clan's Sheng Zun. This was too unbelievable, wasn't it? The short and fat man wanted to open his mouth to ask a few times, but he didn't dare. He was simply dying of curiosity. Everyone immediately rushed to the imperial city and almost didn't encounter any resistance. Firstly, the army was pressing down on the border, so the people guarding the city didn't have the mood to continue fighting. Secondly, the title of Saint Lord was too well known. Just by standing there, the ghouls did not have the courage to resist anymore. Thirdly, the news that Yun Chujio had released had already spread throughout the ghost realm. Those people also knew that Princess Mei Yan in the palace was a fake, and she even used human blood to cultivate. In the past, they had no choice but to turn against her now. Soon, the Saint Lord, Yun Chujio, and the others arrived at the imperial palace. The ghost race's Emperor Kang Shao had already turned into a puddle of mud due to fear. He brought his concubines over to surrender while trembling. He kept saying a lot of things, blaming Princess Mei Yan for everything. Yun Chujio was too lazy to listen to his nonsense and immediately ordered her men to arrest him. At this moment, a charming and surprised voice was heard, "My lord, is it really you? Mei Yan, are you dreaming? We finally meet again." Following the voice, Princess Mei Yan walked over with several guards. There was no panic on her face. Instead, there was shyness and surprise, as if she had really met her long-lost lover. Sheng Zun did not speak, but his eyes were cold. He had lost a lot of memories and did not remember this Princess Mei Yan, but he instinctively disliked this woman. "Your Excellency, why didn't you say anything? Have you forgotten Mei Yan?" Princess Mei Yan said with tears in her eyes. Before the Lord said anything, He Xinjiu snorted and said, "Old witch, are you shameless? This is my man, get away from me." A trace of anger flashed across Princess Mei Yan's face and disappeared in an instant. She looked at the Lord sadly and said, "Sheng Zun, my lord, you and I were in love back then, but fate played tricks on us and forced us to separate. Do you really not remember Mei Yan?" "Pa. I've seen shameless people before, but this is the first time I've seen someone as shameless as you. In love? Not to mention my Prince Charming, even AOG doesn't like you, a sinister and ugly freak." He Xinjiu cursed while pointing at Princess Mei Yan with one hand on the Lord's arm and the other. AOG, does he not care about his face? Chapter 4464, The Life-Exterminating Array. Princess Mei Yan's eyes fell on the Lord's arm that was held by Yun Chujio, and a trace of viciousness flashed in her eyes. At this moment, He Xinjiu shrank into the Lord's arms and said with a trembling voice, "Sheng Zun, that old and ugly witch stared at me. I was scared to death." The Lord said indifferently, "You retreat to the back. I'll kill her." He Xinjiu felt very comfortable in her heart. Her pretty boy was really good. He was cold and heartless to other women. She liked his style. Princess Mei Yan was so angry. When did she glare at her? This bitch dared to frame her. Also, Sheng Zun had never been close to women. Why was he so protective of this bitch? Just as Princess Mei Yan was thinking about it, she suddenly felt a murderous aura. She hurriedly dragged a guard to block in front of her. The guard was swept by the Lord's palm wind and immediately flew out. Without even looking, she knew that Sheng Zun was definitely dead. Princess Mei Yan's expression was very ugly. She looked at the Lord in disbelief. "Lord, you really want to kill me?" Sheng Zun did not answer her. Instead, he swung his palm again. Princess Mei Yan was prepared this time. She did not use her guards to block Sheng Zun's palm. Instead, she dodged Sheng Zun's palm. "Wait! I have something important to say." Princess Mei Yan shouted sharply. Sheng Zun stopped his attack and looked at her coldly. "Say it." Princess Mei Yan took a deep breath and squeezed out a smile. "Your Excellency, 10,000 years ago, you personally handed me something and said that we would meet again in the future. You asked me to give you that thing. Why don't we talk in private?" After Princess Mei Yan said that, she looked at Yun Chujio provocatively. How could a little girl compete with her? She was simply courting death. As long as she had the opportunity to have intimate contact with Xingzun, she did not believe that Xingzun would not be convinced by her beauty. As long as Xingzun was completely devoted to her, not to mention the mere ghost region, the 3,000 continents would be hers. Just as Princess Meiyan was scheming, she heard Xingzun coldly say, "Let alone the fact that I would never give you the thing, even if I really gave it to you, I would not want it now." Princess Meiyan was so angry that her face was twisted. Even though the Lord was cold in the past, he wouldn't speak so harshly. How did he become like this now? He Xinjiu burst into laughter and said with a grin, "Old witch, did you hear that? My Prince Charming is annoying you to death. Stop daydreaming. In my opinion, it's a waste of resources for a shameless person like you to live. You might as well kill yourself." Princess Meiyan said coldly, "My lord, I originally didn't plan to go to the extreme due to old feelings, but since you're so heartless, I don't have anything to worry about anymore." Xingzun's voice was cold. "To tell you the truth, I've already set up the life exterminating array in the ghost region. Once my life is lost, the life exterminating array will automatically open. At that time, the ghost region will become an azure field." Princess Meiyan's words immediately caused a commotion. They did not doubt the possibility of Princess Meiyan's words at all, because Princess Meiyan was sinister and vicious. She could indeed do such a thing. He Xinjiu narrowed her eyes and said with a chuckle, "Old witch, didn't you already say that the life exterminating array will only be activated when your life is in danger? Then, it'll capture you and cut you into 1,000 pieces. It'll just keep you alive. Don't you think it's very interesting?" Chapter 4465, Red Pearl. Princess Meiyan was so angry that she almost died. Interesting. This wretched girl was really detestable to the extreme. She said coldly, "Although I'm not your Majesty's match, it's still easy for me to escape. Your Majesty, today, you can either kill this slut by your side and marry me, or you can watch the destruction of the ghost region." Sha Wuhan and the others looked at the Lord nervously. The Lord wouldn't really agree to Princess Meiyan's request, would he? However, if he didn't agree, wouldn't the ghost realm be finished? It was too difficult to make a decision. Only the Lord and He Xinjiu didn't show any signs of worry or nervousness among the others, including Xingzun and He Xinjiu. He Xinjiu was sure that the gigolo wouldn't hurt her under any circumstances, so she naturally wouldn't show any signs of nervousness. Time seemed to slow down. Finally, everyone heard the Lord's cold voice, "I will never be threatened by anyone. Moreover, a person like you would not be willing to use your life to activate the life exterminating array. Even if you really activate the life exterminating array, I have enough power to protect the person you want to protect. You can do whatever you want." Princess Meiyan did not expect the Lord to say this even in her dreams. For a moment, she was stunned. At this moment, the Lord's figure flashed and appeared in front of Princess Meiyan in the blink of an eye. His right hand grabbed Princess Meiyan's neck. Princess Meiyan's face was full of fear. She didn't expect that the Lord's intention was to distract her, and the real purpose was to hit the target with one strike. Xingzun, who was standing in front of Princess Meiyan, was stunned. He Xinjiu was so proud of himself. Her pretty boy not only had a face but also a plan, but this old hag also wanted to threaten him. What wishful thinking. She took out a dagger and rubbed it against Princess Meiyan's face. "Tell me the location of the extermination array and the method to break it, and it'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, it'll cut you into 1,000 pieces. Bitch, how dare you? If you force me, it'll bite my tongue and kill myself. All of you will die." Princess Meiyan said in exasperation. Yun Chujiu smiled even more brightly. "Old witch, don't you know that biting off your tongue won't kill you? Why don't you try it?" Princess Meiyan gnashed her teeth in hatred and turned to the Lord. "My lord, you won't let this bitch mess around, right? I know I'm wrong. As long as you let me go, I'll destroy the life exterminating array myself and find a place to live in seclusion. For the sake of our past friendship, please spare me." Princess Meiyan's voice was mournful and charming, with a few drops of tears on her face. Even Sha Wuhan and the others could not bear to see it. Hei Xinjiu slashed her face with a dagger. You old witch, you still want to seduce my man at this time? How shameless you are. Tui, how powerful do you think your seduction technique is? Even AOG was not successfully seduced by you, and you still want to seduce my Prince Charming? You overestimate yourself. AOG, who did he offend? Why did he have to bring him along every time? He also wanted to save face, alright? Princess Mei Yan was in pain and annoyed. Her eyes fell on the red bead hanging on her neck, and the words that man had said flashed across her mind. She gritted her teeth. Her soul consciousness moved, and the bead broke. Almost at the same time, Yun Chuzhou screamed miserably. She turned into several purple light dots, condensing into her original appearance. However, what she condensed was just an illusion. Moreover, the color was light, as if it would disappear at any moment. Chapter 4466 The rootless man. Di Baiming's head buzzed. He had already restrained Princess Mayan's elemental energy and divine sense. Why was she still able to cause the red bead on her neck to crack? He did not have the time to investigate this now. A burst of icy air overflowed from his hand. Princess Mei Yan felt that the blood in her entire body seemed to have frozen. The bone-piercing pain made her cry out in pain. Tell me, why did little Jiu become like this? Sheng Zun's voice was so cold that there was not the slightest bit of warmth. Ha, ha, that person is indeed right. The woman beside you is indeed a rootless person. After 49 days, she will completely disappear and there will be no possibility of resurrection. Sheng Zun, I have always been deeply in love with you, but you have repeatedly ignored me. This is karma. This bitch is about to die completely. No matter how capable you are, you can only watch as she dissipates bit by bit. Sheng Zun, do you regret treating me like that now? Ha, it's a pity that it's too late. This bitch is dead for sure. Princess Mei Yan said in a crazed manner. Although Di Baiming wanted to kill her with a single slap, he still needed her to ask for useful information, so he could only send out a bit of cold air. The Lord ignored Princess Mayan's scream and asked with a trembling voice, Little Jiu, how are you? Sheng Zun asked. His heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. If it were not for his negligence, little Jiu would not have become like this. He had let little Jiu down. Yun Chuzhou was so smart. She naturally understood what the Lord was thinking. She said with a smile, I think it's okay. My body is as light as a swallow. Prince Charming, don't worry. I've always been lucky. I've always been able to turn misfortune into luck and fortune. Who knows, I might even have some unexpected gains this time. How could the Lord not know that Yun Chuzhou was consoling him? Just as he was about to interrogate Princess Mei Yan, he saw AOG rush in front of Princess Mei Yan like a madman and slap her a few times. Slut. If you don't tell me how to save little Jiu today, I will use the secret arts of the Yan clan to make you beg for death. Not only will I make your body rot inch by inch, I will also make your spiritual sense suffer from the burning pain. AOJI's action not only stunned Princess Mei Yan, but also the others. The Lord and Yingqing Luo were a couple. It was one thing for him to be anxious, but why did AOG look even more anxious than the Lord? Was he trying to steal a woman from Sheng Zun? Princess Mei Yan was stunned for a moment, then spat out a mouthful of blood and laughed crazily. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect that all of you would be mesmerized by this slut. Good, very good. This is your retribution. Want to save her? It's not impossible. As long as you enter the 10,000 ghost lair and get the soul-gathering pearl, you can save this slut. But, do you dare to go? Ha ha ha. The Lord frowned. He did not dare to perform a soul search on Princess Mei Yan, because if someone had placed a restriction on her soul consciousness, one soul search would kill Princess Mei Yan. Then, he would not be able to get any useful clues. He glanced at AOG, whose eyes were red, and felt somewhat complicated. He said indifferently, AOG, you used the secret technique of the Yen clan to force her to tell who exactly told her how to use the red pearl and where the life extermination array was set up. AOG immediately used the secret technique of the Yen clan on Princess Mayenne. Princess Mayenne laughed shrilly. Do you think you can force me to tell the truth? Dream on. You will never know the truth, and this bitch is dead for sure. What I, Mayenne, cannot get, no one else can. Chapter 4467 Soul Gathering Pearl. AOG was furious, but he did not dare to really kill Princess Mayenne, lest he missed the way to save Yun Chuzhou. At this time, Yun Chuzhou floated in front of Princess Mayenne. Old witch, do you think you have one? Princess Mayenne stared at Yun Chuzhou maliciously. Although I did not get what I wanted, at least I made you lose your life. It was worth it. Yun Chuzhou chuckled. It's a pity that you're destined to be disappointed. I'm just lucky. Otherwise, that person wouldn't have spent so much effort to set me up. Not to mention your little tricks, even Tian Dao wouldn't be able to take my life. Not only will I live, but I'll also live well. Don't you feel that you're very pitiful? You don't have anyone by your side who is sincere to you. Everyone wants you to die. You have no family, no lover, and even less friends. What do you want? Even if you control the ghost realm, even if you control the dark continent, even if you control the 3,000 continents, what do you want? Power. Even if you have supreme power, do you think that you can obtain family, friendship, and love? You are destined to be a pitiful worm who is despised by others. Princess Mayenne was obviously hit by Yun Chuzhou's words, and her face became even paler and twisted. She gritted her teeth and said, so what if what you said is right? At least when I was alive, I enjoyed it freely. As for whether it was heartless or not, they are all illusory things. I don't care. You don't have to be stubborn. The 10,000 Ghost Lair is an Azura battlefield. There is no going back. TSK, aren't you and Xingzun in love? Isn't love stronger than gold? Then let's see if he will break into the 10,000 Ghost Lair for you. Let's see if he will be willing to sacrifice his life for you. Yun Chuzhou laughed lightly again. Old witch, my Prince Charming is the Xingzun who disagrees with heaven and earth. What is a mere 10,000 Ghost Lair? He can definitely help me get the Soul Gathering Pearl. Princess Mayenne saw the smile on Yun Chuzhou's face and felt that it was particularly eye-catching. She said fiercely, a 10,000 Ghost Lair. Aren't you afraid that your words will hurt your tongue? To tell you the truth, the life extermination array is set up in the 10,000 Ghost Lair. Moreover, there are more than 10,000 evil spirits brought by the ghost ancestor in the 10,000 Ghost Lair. If you go there, you will die without a burial place. Yun Chuzhou smiled brightly. Old witch, thank you for telling me so much. Otherwise, I really wouldn't know that the life extermination array is in the 10,000 Ghost Lair. Princess Mayenne almost fainted from anger. No wonder this wretched girl was flirting with her. It turned out that she had other motives. She had been tricked again. Prince Charming, I reckon that she won't be able to say anything useful. Just search her soul and find as many as you can, Yun Chuzhou said indifferently. Princess Mayenne knew that she wouldn't be able to escape death, so she didn't beg for mercy. She only screamed and scolded, slut, even if I die, you won't be able to live. You are a rootless person. You will never have a good ending in your lifetime. You are destined to be alone. The people around you will also be dragged down by you. They will not have a good ending. Princess Mayan's words stopped abruptly because Di Baiming had already started to search her soul. Unfortunately, before she could get any useful clues, Princess Mayenne died with blood flowing out of her 7 orifices. Di Baiming looked at Yun Chuzhou and his heart clenched. He saw Yun Chuzhou curled up into a ball and her entire body was trembling. He quickly walked over and wanted to pull her into his embrace. However, his hand passed through Yun Chuzhou's body and only then did he remember that she was only an illusion now. Chapter 4468, Do you trust me? Yun Chujo raised her head and looked at Di Baiming with a dazed expression. Prince Charming, is what she said true? Am I really a rootless person? Will I really never have a good ending? Will I really be destined to be alone? Will the people around me also be dragged down by me and never have a good ending? Di Baiming's heart felt as if it had been crushed by someone. He felt that he was really useless, repeatedly asking people to hurt her. If he had known earlier, he would have killed Princess Mei Yan. He would not have let little Jiu fall into the inner demons again. At this moment, Yun Chujia's soul was severely damaged, and her will was easily affected by words. In addition, in her previous life, she was abandoned by her biological parents who valued sons over daughters. She had never opened this knot in her heart. In her previous life, other than Yun Qi, she did not have any relatives or friends. Moreover, Yun Qi broke up with her boyfriend because of her, so she always felt guilty. In this life, although the Yun family of Qing Xian continent treated her well, she still did not enjoy the warmth of her biological parents. Ever since Di Baiming met her, in order to save her, he had risked his life many times and almost lost his life many times. Could it be that he was dragged down by her? Little Jiu, listen to me. I don't know if you are a rootless person, but there is one thing I am sure of. From now on, I will always be by your side. No matter if it's heaven or earth, I will always be with you. No matter how dangerous the future is, I will always be with you. Do you trust me? The Lord said slowly and firmly. Yun Chujo looked into the Lord's eyes. Other than her reflection, there was also a burning affection in Shengzun's eyes. Many images of the two of them getting along flashed in her mind. Her helpless heart seemed to have someone to rely on, and then it sank into darkness. When Yun Chujo regained consciousness again, she realized that she was still in the same place. However, the others had disappeared, and only Di Baiming was guarding her by the side. Seeing that she had woken up, Di Baiming asked anxiously, Little Jiu, you're awake? Is there anything wrong? Yun Chujo stretched lazily, it's all right. I just feel that I don't have much strength. Di Baiming saw that her expression was normal and knew that she had already overcome her inner demons. However, his heart was not at ease at all. A trace of worry flashed across Di Baiming's eyes. Although he did not know what was going on with Yun Chujo, the color of her figure seemed to have faded after she fell into a deep sleep. He could not let her fall into a deep sleep again. Little Jiu, we will rush to the 10,000 ghost lair immediately. Di Baiming knew that there was no time to delay. He had to seize the time to obtain the soul-gathering pearl. Yun Chujo nodded. She had not lived long enough. Naturally, she had to take a gamble. Prince Charming, where are the others? What happened after that? She asked curiously. Di Baiming said faintly, those guards and direct descendants of Princess Mei Yan are all dead. The related matters will be temporarily handled by the real Princess Mei Yan and Sha Wuhan. You don't have to care about them anymore. If they can't even clean up the mess, then they are not worth your nurturing anymore. Yun Chujo nodded. What about AOG and those soldiers from the Yen clan? I'll have them temporarily set up camp outside the imperial city to help Sha Wuhan and the others hold down the fort. Once the situation stabilizes, they will leave. Yun Chujo saw that there was nothing to worry about here, so she drifted along with Di Baiming as they prepared to leave the imperial palace. They had just drifted some distance away when they saw the short and fat man commanding the imperial guards. Chapter 4469, What are you all afraid of? The short and fat man and the royal guards immediately knelt on the ground. If one looked closely, they would find that those people were all trembling. Yun Chujo frowned slightly. What did it mean? What were these people afraid of? Although the pretty boy was the lord, it was not to the extent that he made them so afraid, right? Second brother, I am going to follow my Prince Charming to the Myriad Ghosts cave. You should assist big brother well. Also, there are some things that need to be thought of from a different perspective. Don't miss out on a good marriage opportunity, Yun Chujo said with a smile. Although the short and fat man didn't quite understand the meaning behind Yun Chujia's words, his eyes were red. He said with a sobbing voice, "Little Jiu, you will definitely recover. Second brother is waiting for you here. Second brother will prepare a lot of delicious food for you. You must come back." Yun Chujio said with a light smile, "Don't worry. I'm still waiting to drink second brother's wedding wine." When the short fatty heard this, his eyes turned even redder and he almost burst into tears. He did not care how little Jio's appearance changed, nor did he care about her true identity. He also did not care about the words of someone who had no roots. He only knew that this was his sister, a sister that was even closer to him than his own sister. The short fatty used almost all of his strength and courage to look at Di Baiming. He gritted his teeth and said, "Your Excellency, although I don't have the right to say anything to you, little Jiu has been entrusted to you. I hope that you can return safely." Di Baiming hummed and motioned for Yun Chujio to leave. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said, "Prince Charming, wait for me in front. I have some private matters to discuss with second brother." Di Baiming naturally would not go against Yun Chujio's wishes. He immediately walked to a distance and waited for her. "Second brother, tell me the truth. What are you guys afraid of? Are you afraid of me, this so-called rootless person?" Yun Chujio asked in confusion. "Pooey. Pooey. Pooey. Little Jiu, don't listen to that old witch, Mei Yen, spout nonsense. If it wasn't for you, we brothers would still be starving and freezing. How would we have such a good life now? So you don't have to take her words to heart. We aren't afraid of you, but of your Excellency." The short and fat man glanced at a certain lord in the distance and said in a low voice. "Afraid of him? Although he is the lord of the Yen clan, he shouldn't make you so afraid, right?" Yun Chujio said in puzzlement. The short and fat man hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, "Little Jiu, we are blood-related siblings, so I won't hide it from you. You really don't know. After you fell into a deep sleep yesterday, your Excellency went on a killing spree. Princess Mayan's guards and direct descendants were turned into corpses in an instant. It was like a river of blood." Only then did Yun Chujio realize that there were many palaces in her original place. It seemed that they were all ruins after she woke up. It turned out that it was caused by the gigolo's outburst. Seeing that Yun Chujio was in a daze, the short and fat man quickly said, "Little Jiu, although your majesty is a little cruel, it's also because he cares about you. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone on a killing spree." Yun Chujio nodded. "Second brother, I understand. Since there's nothing else, I'll leave. You should think about what I said to you." Without waiting for the short and fat man to reply, He Xinjiu floated away. The short and fat man wiped his tears. He was thinking about what Yun Chujio said while instructing the imperial guards to continue with their work. Yun Chujio floated to Di Baiming's side and smiled, "Prince Charming, let's go. Well, go get the soul-gathering pearl and meet those evil spirits." Chapter 44-70 Little follower Aog Di Baiming nodded his head. The two of them left the imperial city and headed towards the 10,000 ghost lair. The people of the ghost region could not ride a sword to fly, unless they rode on a flying primordial bird. Although Di Baiming was an exception, Yun Chujio could only float forward in her current state. Otherwise, Di Baiming would not have allowed her to sleep on the spot and not move her. After the two of them left the imperial city for a distance, Di Baiming stopped and said coldly, "Come out." Yun Chujio was stunned and turned around. She saw a figure flash out from behind a tree in the distance. It was the crown prince of the Yen clan, Aog. Aog's back was straight, but his expression was stiff. It was obvious that he was afraid of Di Baiming. Aog walked in front of the two of them and his gaze fell on Yun Chujio. Almost instantly, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He knew that Di Baiming had released his pressure on him. He said with difficulty, "I am also responsible for little Jiu's condition, so I want to go to the myriad ghosts cave with you." Although my cultivation level is not as high as yours, I know some secret techniques of the Yen clan. I might be able to help you. Yun Chujo was about to refuse, but Di Baiming said, then let's go together. Hei Shinjo looked at Di Baiming in surprise. Why didn't this jealousy flare up today? If it was in the past, Aog would have been sent flying with a slap. She did not know that now that Di Baiming was worried about her situation, it was naturally good to have more help. Although he was the lord of the Yen clan, he was not from the Yen clan. Bringing Aog along with Shengzun might be helpful. When Aog saw Di Baiming nod his head in agreement, he was naturally extremely happy. When he found out that Qing Luo was Yun Chujo, his heart was filled with mixed feelings. If he had known that she was little Jiu, he would not have colluded with Princess Mei Yan to force her step by step. If he had known that she was little Jiu, he would have. What should he have done? Snatch her or strike first? All of this was in vain because she was the saint's woman. He could not snatch her away. The only thing he could do now was to help little Jiu find the soul-gathering pearl and make her bright and lively again. Di Baiming had always been quiet. Now that Aog had joined in, he did not say much. Aog had a lot of questions to ask Yun Chujo, but because Di Baiming did not dare to ask, neither of them said anything. Yun Chujo originally could not stay idle, but now she felt very tired. After talking to the short and fat man for a while, she felt sleepy, and now she was just forcing herself to not fall asleep. Di Baiming saw Yun Chuji's listless look and was afraid that she would fall asleep again, so he could only think of a topic. Unfortunately, he was not a person who was good at small talk. After a long time, he finally thought of a topic and asked, Little Jiu, what happened after I left? Little Jiu, tell me what happened after I left? Yun Chujo also knew that Di Baiming was afraid that she would fall asleep, so she forced herself to tell him everything that had happened in the past few days. Di Baiming did not have much of a reaction. On the contrary, Aog kept exclaiming and praising. He was so engrossed in it that he even forgot that there was a fiend beside him. He blurted out, Little Jiu, you are indeed the woman that I have taken a fancy to. You are indeed very smart. Aog had also finished speaking. He also felt an icy cold aura enveloping him. He lowered his head embarrassedly. He was not worthy of such a dazzling woman. Perhaps only a man like Shengzun could be worthy of her. Chapter 4471 will be destroyed. Yun Chujo saw that Aog was really sad, so she could only change the topic. Prince Charming, now that I have become like this, where did Buttface and the others go? Could they be dead already? She tried to summon the big brick, but there was no response. She tried to communicate with Guai Chao and the other foodies, but there was no response, and Buttface was nowhere to be found. At this moment, Yun Chujo heard a voice that seemed to come from far away in her mind. Xiao Xianzi, you quickly come save us. Yun Chujo wanted to listen again, but she couldn't hear anything. She frowned. From the sound of it, it seemed that Dog 2 and the others were trapped somewhere. However, these scammers were all perverts. Where exactly were they trapped? A trace of worry flashed across Di Baiming's eyes. Little Jiu, the most important thing now is to find the soul-gathering pearl first. Then, we will think of a way to find out more about them. Moreover, they all have their own peculiarities. Nothing will happen to them. Yun Chujo had a hunch that Di Baiming was hiding something from her. However, Aog was here, so it was inappropriate for her to ask. She did not even ask where he had gone before. Even though Yun Chujo tried her best not to fall into a deep sleep, she still fell into a deep sleep after drifting for a while. Di Baiming wanted to hold her in his arms, but in the end, he helplessly let go of her. He had no way to touch Yun Chujo now, let alone hold her in his arms. He could only stare at the sleeping shadow, his face very gloomy. Aog was also very anxious. He kept spinning on the ground until he was stared at by Di Baiming. He gathered his courage and asked, Your Excellency, do you have a way to break the formation of destruction? Di Baiming shook his head, No. Then what should we do? It is said that the formation of destruction is the first evil formation. If we can't break it, it will turn into blood, Aog said worriedly. Just destroy it, D. Biming said faintly. Destroy. Destroy. Just destroy it. Aog thought about these words several times. What did the Lord mean? Did he mean to destroy the formation of destruction? Did he hear wrong? That was the formation of destruction. It was not some low-level small formation. How could it be destroyed? However, he saw that D. Biming's expression did not look like he was joking. However, it was also true that the Lord would not joke with him. So, what he said was true. The last bit of pride in Aog's heart instantly disappeared without a trace. Compared to such a pervert, it was already good enough that he did not feel inferior. Where was the slightest bit of pride? Yun Chujia's coma this time was 2 hours longer than the last time. D. Biming's mood became increasingly heavy. It seemed that if little Jiu fell into a coma again, the time would be longer and longer. In this way, they did not have enough time to get the soul-gathering pearl. They could not let her fall asleep again no matter what. Therefore, when they passed by a town, D. Biming left for a while. When Yun Chujio was sleepy again, a certain lord took out a set of clothes and threw it to Aog. Go to the forest next door and change into this set of clothes. Aog was flattered. His honored master was actually concerned about his clothes. However, it was also true. He had been in a terrible mood these days, so he had been wearing the clothes from before. It was indeed a little dirty. However, when Aog's gaze fell on the clothes, he was instantly dumbfounded. Your honored master, isn't this a woman's outfit? Chapter 4472, Would you like to try on this set of clothes? D. Biming said faintly, yes. Aog stretched his neck and waited for a long time, but D. Biming did not say anything else. Aog was even more confused. What did yes mean? Was he deliberately messing with him? Was he trying to humiliate him with women's clothes? Aog suddenly felt a surge of anger rise in his heart. A soldier could be killed but not humiliated. Although he could not beat him, he could not let him do as he pleased. He raised his head and was about to fly into a rage when he saw D. Biming looking at Yun Chujio, who was trying her best to resist the drowsiness with a worried expression. He immediately understood D. Biming's intention. He gritted his teeth and carried his clothes into the forest next to him. Aog was cursing in his heart as he changed his clothes. Although the Lord was powerful, his aesthetic standards were really not that good. Didn't he know that red and green matched each other's bullshit? This color match was really bright and blinding. Aog had to muster his courage for his entire life before he walked out of the forest. Hei Shinjio, who was originally drowsy, saw Aog's style and instantly laughed her head off. Ha, Aog, you are really too beautiful. Ha. Although Aog was a little embarrassed, when he saw that Yun Chujio was smiling happily and no longer looked drowsy like before, he sighed in his heart. Forget it, there was a limit to what he could do. Being able to help her get rid of her drowsiness was already considered not bad. Because of Aog's cross-dressing, Yun Chujio's sleepiness temporarily disappeared. She thought in her heart. She originally thought that Aog only treated her as it's good if you can't get it. She did not expect Aog to be sincere to her. In that case, she could help him more in the future. In the next 2 days, Aog also went all out. Not only was he wearing cross-dressing, but he also deliberately spoke at his throat to make Yun Chujio happy. Yun Chujio was often teased until she fell back and forth, and her sleepiness also dissipated a lot. However, as time passed, Aog's women's clothing had lost its attraction to Yun Chujio, and she fell asleep again. Aog had a big red flower on his head, and he wore a green brocade dress. He said with a sad face, Your Excellency, my women's clothing is of no use anymore, but it's still far from the ghost realm. What should we do? If little Joe is still asleep, I'm afraid we won't be able to reach the 10,000 Ghost Cave 49 days ago. Why don't you try on this outfit of mine? Aog subconsciously took a few steps back after he said that. He would never admit that he had the intention to take revenge. Why was he the only one who embarrassed himself? Didn't he say that he would do anything for little Joe? Then why did he only ask him to dress up as a woman and not him? Biming glanced at Aog. That emotionless look almost scared Aog to the point of fainting. Just when Aog thought that Biming was going to slap him to death, he heard him say indifferently, "Take it off." Aog was stunned. He reacted for a long time before he understood what Biming meant. Was he going to wear it? A moment later, Biming walked out of the forest in a green brocade dress with a big red flower on his head. Biming did not look embarrassed at all. He walked slowly to Aog. Aog's mouth was wide open in surprise. The Lord was dressed as comically as him before, but why did he not find it funny? Why did he think that he was arrogant and cool? Was this the legendary aura? Well, even if he didn't want to, he could only admit that some people could wear brocade clothes even if they were wearing rags. Some people couldn't hide their dignity even if they tried their best to be ugly. Chapter 4473 was something that little Gio could not bear to part with. Biming did not look at Aog. Instead, he sat on the ground and began to cultivate. Aog stared at the big red flower on Biming's head. Damn it, it looked like a matchmaker on his head. Why did it feel like a crown on Xingzun's head? What the fuck? A few hours later, Yunchujo finally woke up. She looked at the two of them in a daze, and finally, her gaze fell on Biming. Aog was gloating in his heart. In a while, little Gio would burst out laughing. Let's see how calm he is. Let's see how long he can pretend. However, he never expected Yunchujo to not laugh when she saw Biming's strange appearance. Instead, she said with a sobbing tone, "Prince Charming, what are you doing? You are not Aog. You can't ruin yourself just to make me happy. I will be very sad when I see you like this." Aog, does he not care about his face? Is it really good for you to treat me so differently? Thinking about it, Aog was also the #1 beauty of the Yen clan. How could he ruin him so easily? Biming shot a glance at Aog, then walked to a hidden place and changed his clothes. Aog felt that that glance was like a slap on his face. Biming's meaning was self-evident. It was not that he could not bear to part with his face and pretend to be a woman, but it was that little Gio could not bear to part with it. The last bit of hope that Aog had for Yunchujo was now completely gone. He knew that no matter how hard he worked, no matter how much he fawned, he could not replace the position of the Lord in Yunchuji's heart. He only had one goal now, and that was to help little Gio obtain the soul-gathering pearl. Then, he would go back and become the crown prince of the Yen clan. If it was not his, it would not be his in the end. In the next few days, Aog was even more miserable. In order to prevent Yunchujo from falling asleep, Biming recalled every single detail from the time they had met until now. Hei Shinjo was beaming from ear to ear. Aog was about to be tortured like a dog. Who had he offended? Wasn't it just a woman that he had fallen in love with? Was there a need to torture him in such a way? He simply did not want to live anymore. However, when he looked at Yunchuji's smiling face, his little heart was still like a happy little rabbit. This kind of woman was different from the ones he had seen before. She had left a fresh mark on his heart. He was afraid that he would never be able to erase it in this lifetime. They walked and stopped. On this day, the three of them finally arrived at the Desolation Desert, where the legendary 10,000 Ghost Lair was located. Aog had done a lot of preparations before. He took out a map and said, "The 10,000 Ghost Lair is in the deepest part of the desolate desert. If we want to reach the 10,000 Ghost Lair, we have to cross the desolate desert. It is rumored that there are many brutal origin beasts in the desolate desert. These origin beasts only live in the desolate desert. They are nourished by the evil spirit aura in the 10,000 ghost lair, so they are extremely brutal. Little Jill, when the time comes, you will follow behind me, and I will protect you. Beiming glanced at him indifferently, and Aog immediately felt a little embarrassed. With this fiend around, how could it be his turn to perform? The three of them made some adjustments and entered the Desolation Desert. Although it was called the Desolation Desert, there were still scattered shrubs and short plants. It was unknown whether it was because the aura of the Lord was too strong, but they did not encounter a single origin beast even after walking for dozens of miles. Hey Shinjo, asked Aog with a smile, didn't you say that there were many ferocious origin beasts? Where are they? It's been a long time since I've seen a cute little girl who dares to go against me. Aog, he did not want to talk now, really. Chapter 4474, The Lord. After walking for dozens of miles, a 30 feet tall origin beast finally appeared. Its huge figure left a huge shadow on the ground. Aog saw this origin beast and felt a strange joy in his heart. Fuck, there was finally one. Otherwise, little Nine would think that he was exaggerating. Aog immediately raised his voice and pointed at the origin beast. Little Nine, this is the unique bloodthirsty ghost mammoth of the Desolation Desert. Its fur can turn into sharp arrows to attack the enemy. In addition, due to its huge size, its strength is boundless. A single claw can send dozens of people flying. It is rumored that dozens of Ghost Clan experts once besieged a bloodthirsty ghost mammoth, but in the end, they all died. So, in a moment, Aog's words came to an abrupt end, because the bloodthirsty ghost mammoth that he had bragged about was already lying on the ground, trembling like a fallen leaf in the wind. Yes, a big fallen leaf. It was also very miserable. If it knew that there was a malefic star here, it would not have come out to court death. Was it too late to regret now? Hey Shinjo looked at the bloodthirsty ghost mammoth a few times, and then asked Aog in puzzlement, Aog, didn't you say that the origin beasts here are very fierce? Why is this one so polite? And it even knelt down and worshipped us. Aog, the vampire mammoth, what the hell was that worshipping? It was forced by a tremendous pressure, alright? Beiming said indifferently, let's go. We must hurry. Therefore, the three of them bypassed the shivering vampire mammoth and continued their journey. Hey Shinjo said regretfully, if it weren't for the fact that I can't condense a real body right now, I would ride that vampire mammoth for a stroll no matter what. Just thinking about it makes me feel awe-inspiring. Beiming curled his lips and said, when we get the soul-gathering pearl, it'll help you catch one and take you around the Desert of Desolation. Hearing that, the bloodthirsty ghost mammoth shivered even more violently. It made up its mind that it would stay in the nest from now on and never show off again. Aog did not want to talk now. He felt like a fool following the two perverts. After a moment, Aog finally could not help but say, Little Joe, Your Excellency, do you see the glaring red in the distance? That's the Nirvana ghost ants. Even a behemoth like the bloodthirsty ghost mammoth would not dare to provoke the Nirvana ghost ants. The toxins they secrete can turn a bloodthirsty ghost mammoth into a pile of bones in an instant. Moreover, it seems that the Nirvana ghost ants in the distance are a large group. Why don't we take a detour? Beiming ignored him and continued to walk forward at a moderate pace. Hey Shinjo said uninterestedly while floating, are these the ferocious primeval beasts you were talking about? Aren't they just a bunch of ants? It's really not challenging at all. Aog quickly retorted, Little Joe, don't underestimate those Nirvana ghost ants. Apart from secreting toxins, they also have a pair of sharp forelegs. They are very ferocious, aren't they? Aog swallowed his words back, because a large group of Nirvana ghost ants had instantly fled like a tide, and they were the ones that fled in panic. Some of the old, young, sick, and disabled ants that did not have time to escape directly dived into the sand. Aog, it was not that the origin beasts were not ferocious, but that the Lord was too abnormal. Hey Shinjo was also somewhat puzzled. Although the pretty boy was powerful, it seemed that he was much more powerful than other places in the Dark Continent and the Ghost Domain. What was going on? Chapter 4475 was not well written. Aog did not say anything when he saw the origin beast. It would be a slap in the face anyway, so it was better to pretend to be dumb. The origin beasts he saw along the way all fled when he saw the three of them. A few of them did not escape, but they only watched from afar and did not dare to approach the three of them. Aog felt like he was dreaming. He even suspected that he had entered a fake desolation desert. What happened to the dangerous situation? What happened to never coming back? How come he didn't even have the chance to make a move along the way? What a grievance. 2 days later, the three of them arrived at the Myriad Ghosts Cave smoothly. Yun Chujo saw 3 huge ancient characters on the cliff wall and burst into laughter. Who wrote these characters? Why is it uglier than mine? Di Biming and Aog looked up. The 3 characters on the cliff wall were written in a crooked way. It was indeed not good. Aog coughed dryly and said, "It is said that this was written by the ghost ancestor himself." Yun Chujo exclaimed, "Didn't you say that this is the Myriad Spirit Cave? Why is it written here?" Aog explained, "Originally, this place was indeed called the Myriad Spirit Cave. However, because the evil spirits here were too ferocious, everyone called it the Myriad Spirit Cave." Yun Chujo blinked her eyes. "You've always said that it was an evil spirit. What the hell is an evil spirit?" It's rumored that the ghost ancestor brought countless remnant souls from other continents back then. Due to various reasons, they were unable to reincarnate. If it wasn't for the ghost ancestor bringing them to the ghost territory, these remnant souls would have turned into ashes. However, after the ghost ancestor released those remnant souls, he realized that some of them were unable to form a physical body, so he placed them in the 10,000 Spirits Cave. As there were 5 soul-gathering pearls left by the ghost ancestor in the 10,000 ghost lair, those remnant souls would slowly form a physical body after absorbing the energy from the soul-gathering pearls. During this period, some people had designs on those soul-gathering pearls. However, those who entered the 10,000 ghost lair would never return. As time passed, the 10,000 ghost lair was also known as the 10,000 ghost lair by everyone. Yun Chujo nodded. No wonder the ghost clansmen were very respectful towards the ghost ancestor. If there was no ghost ancestor, there would not be the present ghost territory. Then where did the ghost ancestor go? Yun Chujo asked curiously. I don't know. There are no records about it in the various books of the ghost clan. It's as if the ghost ancestor disappeared into thin air, Aog said. Yun Chujo thought of the spirit souls summoned by the ghost clan members. She felt that the ghost ancestor's disappearance seemed to be related to those spirit souls. Just as she was about to ask more questions, a black mist began to spread in the surroundings. The black fog transformed into the appearance of evil ghosts and pounced towards the 3 of them. Aog cried out in surprise, "The life extermination array." We actually stepped into the life extermination array without realizing it. As Aog spoke, he released his nightmare aura to resist the black fog, preventing Yun Chujo and him from being attacked by the black fog. As for a certain one, HMPH. Wasn't he powerful? Then he would deal with it himself. He even bragged about destroying it. Did he really think that the life extermination array was a joke? If he did not know how to break it, it would be almost impossible to destroy the life extermination array with brute force. The nightmare aura that Aog released blocked a few evil ghosts that were formed by the black fog. He shouted at Hei Shinjo, "Little Jiu, my nightmare aura can deal with these evil ghosts. You must stay close to me so that you won't be attacked by these evil ghosts." However, he did not hear a response. He turned around and his nose almost went crooked from anger. Chapter 4476, Black Evil Spirits. Di Biming and Yun Chujo were standing there perfectly fine. No one knew what Di Biming had done. The evil spirits formed by the black fog had no way of getting close to them. Aog saw Yun Chujio turn her head to look at him and gloated, Aog, you don't have to care about me anymore. You have to pray for yourself. Be careful not to lose your life. Aog felt wronged. In front of this pervert, Shengzun, he had been beaten into a pulp. The so-called opportunity to show off was simply a disgrace. Aog vented his anger on those evil spirits and used his nightmare chi to kill them. At first, it was fine, but as time passed, Aog could not hold on any longer. No matter how powerful he was, he could not deal with the endless black fog ghosts. What made him most angry was that Di Baiming had been standing there and did not move at all, allowing him to be attacked by those evil ghosts. He thought carefully, no wonder the Lord agreed to let him come with them. It turned out that he was looking for an opportunity to kill Shengzun. How cunning! He was too naive to think that the Lord was a generous person. Bah! So he was a cunning person. What made him even sadder was that Yun Chujio kept smiling at him without any intention of attacking him. She was too cold-blooded. Even though he had been wearing women's clothes for a few days, he should not have left him to die. He felt a chill in his heart. Although he did not expect Yun Chujio to take him seriously, at least she was better than a stranger, right? She actually watched him struggle with all his might without helping him. It was too disappointing. At this moment, he heard Yun Chujio clapping her hands and said, Aog, how can a person like you dream of marrying me? You really want to eat swan meat? Why don't you look in the mirror? How can a coward like you be worthy of me? Compared to my Prince Charming, you are like the sky and the earth. You really overestimate yourself and are shameless. Aog looked at Yun Chujio in disbelief. He did not expect Yun Chujio to say such heartless words. For a moment, he felt that everything had become meaningless, and his hands slowed down. Anyway, he was going to die sooner or later, so he would die. A black evil spirit pounced on him ferociously. He closed his eyes. He would end his life like this. Of course, he was unwilling, but what could he do? He walked the path on his own. However, the pain that he imagined did not come. Instead, he heard Yun Chujio's fierce voice, Aog, is there something wrong with your head? Hurry up and help Prince Charming break the formation. What are you mumbling about with your eyes closed? Aog opened his eyes and was surprised to find that there was no black evil spirit around him. Yun Chujio was scolding him with her hands on her hips while Di Baiming was attacking a barrier. The barrier trembled violently under Di Baiming's attack. It would not take long for the barrier to break. Aog was a little confused. Could it be that he was hallucinating? Little Joe, you didn't see the black evil spirits? Isn't this the life extermination array? Aog asked in confusion. Yun Chujio touched her chin. This should be inside the life extermination array. However, it seems that this life extermination array should be made up of many array formations. This should be an illusory array. Oh right, why did you mumble about how cold your heart is? Why don't you just die? What kind of illusion did you fall into? Chapter 4477, Face is like a rag. Aog stammered, no, it's nothing. It's just that there are a lot of evil spirits formed by the black fog. I'll go and help first. Hei Xinjiu was very smart. Even if Aog did not say it, she had already guessed most of it. Aog saw Yun Chujio's half-smile and became even more embarrassed. He ran over to help in a panic. Unfortunately, before he could make a move, the barrier was broken by Di Baiming. Aog, why did he feel that he was not here to help? Instead, he was here to eat for free. While he was in a daze, there was a faint blue mist spreading in all directions. Aog only inhaled a little bit, and he felt his whole body become excited. He was shocked and immediately released the nightmare chi to envelop the three of them, isolating them from the blue mist. This blue mist is poisonous. What should we do next? Aog asked with a worried expression. Although the nightmare chi he released could temporarily isolate the poisonous blue mist, it wouldn't last for long. You protect little Jiu. I'll attack the barrier, Di Biming said indifferently. But, the blue fog is poisonous. Aog swallowed the rest of his words. A layer of light had risen around Di Biming, so the blue fog couldn't get close to him. Aog looked at the barrier that was trembling under Di Biming's attack and comforted himself. He wasn't completely useless. At least he could pretend to be a woman and make little Jiu happy. At least he could release the nightmare chi to protect little Jiu temporarily. He was still quite useful, really. A moment later, the barrier was broken through by Di Biming again. However, when he saw the situation in the formation this time, Aoj's face immediately turned red. There were countless beautiful women in the formation scratching their heads. Moreover, they were all naked beauties. Di Biming's expression did not change at all. In his eyes, these women were no different from rocks. They were not even as pretty as rocks, so he naturally did not care. Although Aog had a strong resistance to the power of charm, he still had little Jiu by his side. This was too embarrassing and annoying. At this moment, he heard Yunchujiu say in disdain, even if all of you transform, you should at least transform into something good-looking. All of you are crooked and ugly, aren't you too ugly? The one with the red hairpin on her head, your figure is not even as good as Aoj's, and you still have the nerve to twist around like a big bug? The one with the green earring, did you just shave your sharp face? And the little bitch on the left, your triangular eyes are still winking at Sanjiaoyan? If you keep winking, you'll be thrown out. The second one on the left, you're even uglier than Aog. With your looks, you still want to seduce others? Aog, he finally knew that in front of these two perverts, his face was like a rag, long trampled under his feet. However, after He Xinjia's scolding, Aoj's shyness was also thrown to the back of his mind. The Yen clan was originally very beautiful. The beauty of these women really did not catch his eye. It was only because Yunchujiu was by his side that he felt a little uncomfortable. After Aoj's emotions calmed down, he began to attack those women. Those women who had transformed only had the power of charm and did not have much combat ability. In an instant, they were all killed by Aog, turning into smoke and disappearing. Aog felt that he was awesome. He had finally performed once and was no longer so useless. Chapter 4478, Spring Breeze and Rain Formation. Although the three formations were easily dissolved, the three of them knew that this was only the beginning. The life-extinguishing formation could not be so simple. Aog suddenly exclaimed, I have no way to use the nightmare chi and spiritual power. Lord, how are you? Di Biming's expression changed slightly. My cultivation has also been restricted, less than 1%. Aog was worried, but at the same time, he cursed in his heart. What a pervert! In such a huge formation that sealed his cultivation, there was still a portion of his cultivation left. Just as Aog was thinking, countless water droplets began to fall slowly. Those water droplets refracted 7 colored rays of light, looking extremely beautiful. Di Biming said coldly, this is the spring wind and rain formation. These water droplets are extremely corrosive. Be careful and avoid them. As Di Biming spoke, he put up a protective shield to protect Yunchujiu. As for the poor Aog, he could only rely on himself. Aog did not have any thoughts this time. Di Biming only had 1% of his cultivation left to protect little Jiu. Naturally, he did not have the strength to protect him. As the water droplets were not very dense and the speed of their descent was not very fast, even if Aog's cultivation was sealed, he could easily dodge them with his movement technique. However, as time passed, the speed of the water droplets' descent became faster and more dense. Aog could not dodge in time, and a water droplet landed on the hem of his clothes. Almost instantly, a large hole was corroded on the hem of his clothes, and it was still spreading. Aog did not care much and took off the entire outer garment, or else it would corrode his skin. On the other side, Di Biming was not at ease either. He only had 1% of his cultivation left, and he still had to protect Yun Chuzhou. He would not be able to hold on for long. Di Biming's eyes darkened, and he took out a small bone from his sleeve pocket. Yun Chuzhou knew that he was going to use a secret technique, so she quickly stopped him. Wait. If you use a secret technique, not only will your cultivation decrease for a period of time, but it will also trigger the cold poison. It's best not to use it lightly. Little Jiu, the situation is critical now. If I don't use a secret technique, the three of us will die in this spring breeze rain formation. Di Biming said in a deep voice. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes. Logically speaking, I was definitely not afraid of these water droplets before. It's just that the situation now is hard to say, but it's not impossible. I'll give it a try. What if I'm not afraid of these water droplets? Prince Charming, don't worry. I know what to do. I'll try it with my hair. At most, I'll become bald. It's not like I haven't changed before. Di Biming thought about it. If the situation turned bad, he could just turn off the protective shield. Therefore, he opened a gap in the protective shield, and He Xinjiu exposed the tip of her hair. Aog tried his best to avoid the water droplets while secretly cursing Di Biming for being an idiot. Little Jiu was already very weak since she was unable to condense a physical body, yet he actually asked her to take the risk. Pooey. Sure enough, he only said it in a nice way. At the crucial moment, he had already sent little Jiu away. How could anyone not be afraid of this poison? Even a thick-skinned origin beast like the bloodthirsty ghost, M.A., would be corroded by this water droplet. Wasn't little Jiu courting death? At this moment, a water droplet fell on He Xinjia's hair, and then, it disappeared. Aog felt that his eyes were playing tricks on him. This was impossible. How could it disappear all of a sudden? Then, another drop of water fell on Yun Chuzhou's hair, and it still disappeared. Chapter 4479. Aog was completely dumbfounded. What was going on? Little Jiu was not a grain of sand. How did the water drop disappear? He Xinjiu was also dumbfounded. In the past, she could have swallowed these water drops into her dantian and fed them to the Guai Chao, but now, why did the water drop disappear when it fell on her hair? However, no matter what, as long as she was sure that she was not afraid of the water droplets, it was a good thing. At the very least, she could help the gigolo and Aog lighten their burden. Otherwise, she would have eaten for nothing. Yun Chuzhou used her courage to reach out her hand, and the water droplets that landed on her hand instantly disappeared. He Xinjiu immediately floated out of Di Biming's protective shield and began to swallow the water droplets up and down. All the water droplets that fell on Yun Chuzhou's body would disappear. Aog was surprised to find that the color of Yun Chuzhou's shadow had become darker as the number of water droplets that she devoured increased. Not only did the water droplets have no corrosive effect on her, they even had the effect of nourishing her soul. This was too unbelievable. He Xinjiu was in an extremely good mood. She kept flying around in the array and even boasted, "Come, give me a big basin of such venom. The more, the better." She didn't know whether the venom in the array had been used up or not, but before He Xinjiu could eat to her heart's content, there were no more water drops. He Xinjiu sighed regretfully. That's it. What a pity. Aog, pervert. Without the water drops, even though Di Biming's cultivation was limited, he still managed to break through the enchantment of the spring breeze and rain formation after an hour. As soon as the enchantment was broken through, the three of them heard the melodious sound of a zither. The sound of the zither was very soothing and melodious, causing them to relax involuntarily. Aog could not help but feel a little sleepy. He pinched himself and only then did he wake up a little. Yun Chuzhou's eyelids were a little heavy, and a heavy drowsiness assaulted her. She yawned and said, "I'm so sleepy, I'll sleep first." "Little Jiu, you can't sleep," Di Biming shouted sternly. Although she didn't know what kind of array formation this was, if she fell asleep here, she might never wake up again. AOG was still better. With the stimulation to his body, he could dispel the drowsiness. However, Hei Shinjo couldn't condense a physical body now, so she could only rely on her willpower to support herself. Although Di Baiming's shout made Yun Chujo wake up a little, as the sound of the zither became more and more soothing, Yun Chujia's eyes closed again. Di Baiming glanced at AOG, and AOG immediately understood his intention. He took out a female outfit and began to dress up with a sad face. Humph, it's not like I haven't changed before. What's the big deal? AOG put on a female outfit with big red flowers, and even pinched his throat to talk to make Yun Chujo happy. Although the corners of Yun Chujia's mouth twitched, she was probably used to it. AOJI's female outfit was no longer attractive to her, so she closed her eyes again. Di Baiming was extremely anxious and racked his brain to think of a topic. Little Jiu, what did you say before? What is the name of our child in the future? I almost forgot. Say it again. Yun Chujo yawned as she said, the boy's name is DE, and the girl's name is DE. They both mean number one. I can't, I'm too sleepy. I'll sleep for a while. Di Baiming gritted his teeth and took off AOJI's clothes and put them on himself. He imitated AOG and made Yun Chujo happy. However, it did not have much effect. Yun Chujia's eyes closed bit by bit. Chapter 4480, who was the thick-skinned one? Seeing that Yun Chujo was about to fall into a deep sleep, Di Baiming hurriedly stretched out his hands to wake her up, but his hands went through Yun Chujia's body. AOJI's eyes flashed, and he had a good idea of killing two birds with one stone. He slapped at Di Baiming, and Di Baiming subconsciously wanted to slap AOG away, but he immediately understood AOJI's intention. He withdrew the force of his palm and blocked it symbolically. Unexpectedly, AOG cried out in pain, my lord, what? What are you doing? Why are you trying to kill me? Little Jill, help. Although Yun Chujo was very sleepy, she still managed to open her eyes. AOG cried out even more miserably, little Jill, help. The Lord wants to kill me while you are sleeping. I just like you, why would he want to kill me? Di Baiming snorted, little Jill is my woman, not someone you can covet, so you deserve to die. Di Baiming raised his hand and was about to swing it at AOG again. AOG kept screaming and moaning, asking Yun Chujo for help. Hei Shinjo yawned, please act professionally. I am not a 3-year-old child. How can I not see through such a childish trick? Hei Shinjo closed her eyes again as she spoke. Di Baiming glared at AOG fiercely. AOG cursed in his heart. Am I being blamed for this? If you have the ability, think of a good way to prevent little Jiu from falling asleep. Di Baiming originally wanted to create the illusion that the cold poison had relapsed, but he felt that he could not fool Yun Chujo. What should he do? Even if he could make Yun Chujo sober up for a moment, he would still have time to find the source of the music. However, how could he make her stay awake? Di Baiming was so anxious that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind, an extremely absurd idea. He only hesitated for a moment before he said coldly to AOG, turn your head away, don't look at us. AOG did not know what was wrong with Di Baiming, but he did not dare to disobey, so he could only turn away. Di Baiming's face was stiff as he said to Yun Chujo, little Jiu, there are a few more scars on my body. Do you want to take a look? AOG staggered and almost fell to the ground. Is the Lord's brain damaged? Shengzun thought. What time is it now? Why did he still let little Jiu see the bloody scars? Little Jiu did not even care about their fights. Why would she want to see the bloody scars? However, in the next moment, he heard Hei Shinjo say happily like a rabbit, really? Take them off and let me see. AOG, why did he hear ecstasy and a bit of vulgarity in little Jiu's voice? Just as he was thinking about it, he heard Hei Shinjo say slyly, sigh, It's a pity that I can only enjoy it with my eyes, but I can't get my hands on it. It's such a pity. Aog, he felt something shatter in his heart. The bright and lively image of the little fairy had instantly turned into a perverted and lascivious little scoundrel. A certain someone's face was as stiff as a stone. He didn't really take off his clothes, but it was just to attract Heizinjia's attention. However, if he could make little Gio stay awake, he would do it even if he had to run away, let alone take off his shirt. This was because no matter what face or integrity was more important than little Gio's life. Just as he was about to take off his shirt, he heard Heijinjiu say faintly, "Prince Charming, Aog is still here. It doesn't matter if you're thick-skinned, but I'm very shy. You'd better not take it off." A certain someone, did you say the opposite? Who is thick-skinned? Chapter 4481 Heavenly Thunder Weapon. Heijinjiu naturally knew that Di Biming was being thick-skinned to keep her awake. Therefore, even though she was very sleepy, she forced herself to hold on with her will. Di Biming said to Aog, "Talk to little Gio. I'll go break the enchantment." Aog nodded, but he subconsciously wrapped his clothes. Heijinjiu was so smart that she immediately understood Aog's intention. She snorted coldly, "Aog, what's wrong? Are you afraid that I will tease you?" "Tsk. Don't worry, with you like this, even if you lie in front of me, I won't even look at you. It's too eye-catching." Aog, well, his face had been completely fed to the dogs. However, fortunately, Heijinjiu had been attacking Aog, which made his sleepiness disappear a lot. Aog glanced at Di Biming, who was attacking the barrier, from the corner of his eye. He thought to himself, what a freak. Was he not sleepy at all? An hour later, the music stopped abruptly when the barrier was broken. However, what happened next made Aog collapse on the ground. It was because the area they were in was not only covered by a tremendous pressure, but countless purple lightning bolts were floating above their heads, as if they were going to strike at any moment. Under the huge pressure, Aog struggled to speak. "It's over, we won't be able to survive. Even if we have great abilities, we won't be able to resist so many purple lightning bolts." Yunchujiu looked at him as if she was looking at an idiot. "Aog, are you out of your mind? Don't you know that I'm an expert at torturing lightning bolts? Don't you know that I'm a great killer of lightning bolts?" Aog then realized that Yunchujiu had a heavenly thunder spirit root. However, would it work with so much heavenly thunder? Besides, she was already in such a bad shape now. Could she hold on? Could it be that the heavenly thunder dissipated after one strike? Aog was not the only one who was worried. Di Biming was also a little worried. After all, Yunchujiu was no longer the same as before. Could she still withstand the lightning strike? Heijinjiu was not too sure, so she put her hair outside the protective shield. Almost as soon as Heizinjia's hair revealed the protective shield, several bolts of lightning struck Yunchujia's hair. Aog was surprised to find that after the lightning struck Heizinjia's hair, it disappeared. It was exactly the same as the raindrops before. Where did the lightning go? How did it disappear into thin air? At the same time, Heizinjia's figure turned darker than before. Heijinjiu left the protective shield and started to devour the purple lightning like a diligent bee. This guy felt that it was a pity. If she had a solid body now, the purple lightning would be a great tonic. Aog was already dumbfounded by what he saw. Pervert. What a pervert. After the purple lightning bolts were devoured by Yunchujiu, Di Biming quickly broke through the barrier. The three of them discovered that they were still standing at the entrance of the 10,000 Ghost Cave. They did not know if they had just been teleported to another place or if everything was an illusion. Yunchujiu said with some confusion, that old witch, Mei Yan, first said that as long as she died, the life extermination array would be activated. Later on, she said that the life extermination array was to prevent us from obtaining the soul-gathering pearl. No matter what she said, this life extermination array is too simple, isn't it? Aog curled his lips. If she had the ability to set up the life extermination array, she wouldn't have tried so hard to borrow the power of our Yen clan. However, little Jiu, you're right. This life extermination array is too easy for us to crack. I'm afraid there's a trap. Chapter 4482 Cabbage, time is limited. No matter what, let's go in first. Di Baiming said in a deep voice. Yun Chujil and Aog nodded, and the three of them walked into the myriad ghosts' cave. Before entering, He Xingjiu glanced at the three crooked words. She was puzzled. Why did these three words look familiar? However, at this moment, her sleepiness came again. She could only try her best to fight it and put it to the back of her mind. What they saw was an endless tunnel. To their surprise, there were a lot of cabbages growing on both sides of the tunnel. Aog said cautiously, "This is the cave of 10,000 ghosts. These cabbages are definitely not simple. Maybe they are disguised by Yuanji. Everyone must be careful." Yun Chujio looked at him as if she was looking at an idiot. These are obviously ordinary cabbages. How are they Yuanji? Moreover, even if they want to disguise themselves, can they disguise themselves as common grass? Only if they have water in their heads would they disguise themselves as such eye-catching cabbages. Aog thought about it and it made sense. Who would be crazy enough to disguise Yuanji as such eye-catching cabbages? Then, there was a problem. Didn't those evil spirits like to eat human flesh raw and drink human blood raw? Why would they grow so many cabbages? It was really unbelievable. Aog really could not think of a reason for the evil spirits to do so. He asked, "Little Jiu, you have always been the smartest. Why do you think those evil spirits planted so many cabbages here?" Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. "I'm not an evil spirit, how would I know? They probably think that cabbages are 100 fortune, planted here to attract wealth." Aog stumbled. Regarding this explanation, he had nothing to say. Yun Chujio looked at the dainty cabbages and sighed. "It's a pity that I didn't bring those rabbits. Otherwise, they would have liked it very much." Aog, as the saying goes, a thief never leaves empty-handed. "You should pluck these cabbages." Aog, putting aside whether he was a thief or not and whether these cabbages were worth stealing, "Just speaking of this, you're too damn careless. Don't you know what you're doing here? And you're even plucking cabbages. Pluck my ass." The three of them walked for a while. Apart from the cabbages on both sides of the corridor, they didn't even touch a single bug. "Aog, are you sure we are in the right place? Are you sure this is really the 10,000 Ghosts Cave? Did you lead us to the wrong place? This doesn't look like the 10,000 Ghosts Cave to me. Instead, it looks like a vegetable field." He Xingjiu said while yawning. Upon hearing that, Aog immediately took out the map and looked at it again and again. He said weakly, "That's right. This is the 10,000 Ghosts Cave. Perhaps no one has dared to come here for a long time, so the evil spirits are so hungry that they have no choice but to eat cabbages." Yun Chujio glanced at him. "Do you believe what you say?" Aog touched his nose and said, "Little Jiu, it's not my fault. The main reason is that no one can leave the 10,000 Ghosts Cave alive, so no one knows what's going on inside. However, one thing is for sure, these cabbages must be hiding a murderous intent." Yun Chujio saw Aog's anxious look, and evil water rose up. She said faintly, "I still have a guess. Maybe those evil spirits planted a cabbages when they killed a person. These cabbages are like gravestones for them. Maybe there are their corpses down here." Aog looked at the endless cabbages and inexplicably shivered. God, if what little Jiu said was true, how many people would be buried down here? Chapter 4483 was consecrated with cabbages. Yun Chujio looked at Aog's appearance and could not help but feel happy in her heart. This Aog usually had the arrogance of a crown prince, but in reality, his courage was just average. Aog did not know that Yun Chujio was deliberately messing with him, so he quickly moved closer to Beiming. It was safer to follow this pervert. Aog also thought it through. Anyway, it was impossible for him to be together with little Jiu, so there was nothing to pretend about. As for the arrogant crown prince style, he would temporarily put it aside. His little life was more important. The three of them did not know how many cabbages they had passed by, but their eyes suddenly opened, and an incomparably huge stone room appeared. Yun Chujio exclaimed in surprise. She realized that ever since she entered this stone room, her body had actually turned into a physical body. Although she felt very weak, she had indeed condensed into a physical body. It's probably because of the existence of the soul-gathering pearl here, or perhaps there's a special array formation. That's why it's like this, Beiming guessed. Yun Chujio nodded and began to size up this huge stone chamber. There was a huge pearl hanging on the ceiling of the cave, illuminating the entire stone chamber as if it was daytime. There were countless caves on the surrounding stone walls, just like a beehive. There was a statue in the middle of the stone room. It was a graceful woman, but her face was covered by a red veil, so her face could not be seen clearly. There were many cabbages on the table under the woman's statue. They were probably used to worship the woman. Yun Chujio's gaze fell on the cabbages used to worship the woman. The corner of her eyes twitched, and she muttered softly, "This statue is the ghost ancestor, right? These evil spirits are really stingy. They only worship some cabbages." Just as Yun Chujio finished her sentence, a muffled voice roared, "You little punk, what do you know? The ghost ancestor loves cabbage the most. She once said that cabbage is 100 riches, a good thing that brings wealth. That's why we went through so much trouble to obtain a few cabbage seeds. We served them like we served our ancestors, and that's why we nurtured so many juicy cabbage. You ignorant little punk, how dare you insult our feelings towards the ghost ancestor? You deserve to die." Yun Chujio and the other two looked towards the source of the voice and saw a big man walking out from a cave. That big man was holding a large knife in his hand and looked as if he was a demon. However, Hei Shinjio was not afraid of him at all because Beiming had already protected her in his protective shield. Hei Shinjio blinked her eyes. "Little drifter. Cabbage was 100 fortune, a good thing to attract wealth?" Why did the tone of the burly man's voice sound so familiar? Could it be that the people here also knew about Drifter? While the three of them were sizing up the burly man was also sizing up the three of them. The burly man's gaze finally landed on Yun Chujio, and he frowned. According to tradition, if anyone dares to use cabbage as an argument, they will be killed without mercy. However, since you, little drifter, share the same fate as us, I can forgive your sins. Little drifter, I guess you came here to absorb the power of the soul-gathering pearl, right? TSK, you're too weak. I reckon that even if you cultivate for thousands of years, you might not even be able to form a single finger. However, we have more men than women here. I can make the decision to keep you here. As for the other two, leave quickly. Otherwise, you can only become fertilizer for the Chinese cabbage." Aog immediately quivered when he heard this. It turned out that little Jiu had guessed correctly. There were actually corpses underneath those Chinese cabbage. However, from what this burly man meant, those people wouldn't be killed just because they discussed a few words about Chinese cabbage, right? Chapter 4484. If you don't enter the tiger's den, you will only get the tiger's cub. However, Beiming's focus was on more men than women. The gaze he gave the burly man was so cold that it could freeze. The burly man sensed Beiming's gaze and took a few steps back. Then, he snorted coldly. "Kid, I know your cultivation isn't weak, but we have the advantage in numbers. You guys aren't our match. Moreover, this little punk is very weak. We can make her disappear completely in a minute. Therefore, I advise you to leave the little punk behind and leave this place quickly. Otherwise, there will be a few more cabbages." Aog glanced around and did not find anyone other than the burly man. He said with the arrogant demeanor of a crown prince, "Don't bluff. You are clearly the only one here." "There aren't many." Aog's voice suddenly stopped because there were people poking their heads out of the caves and glaring at him. Aog felt that if the gazes of those people could kill, he would have become a sieve by now. Thus, the crown prince attitude that he had just displayed instantly disappeared without a trace. The big man pursed his lips. "See? The reason why I'm the only one coming out is because I have to be polite before I attack. Otherwise, you would have lost your little lives long ago. Little drifter, I don't have a dual cultivation partner yet. Although you're very weak and useless, you're quite good-looking, so I'll reluctantly accept you as my dual cultivation partner. Let me tell you, you've accumulated 8 lifetimes of virtue to be chosen by me. In this 10,000 spirits cave, Lord Tiger, am not a big or small figure. If you follow me, you'll be able to get closer to the soul-gathering pearl. Otherwise, you little weakling, I'm afraid you will only be able to look at the soul-gathering pearl from afar." Upon hearing the burly man's words, Aog was immediately enraged. Damn it, even though little Gio did not fancy him, it was not something that this bullshit Lord Tiger could covet. He was courting death. Aog was just about to fly into a rage when Yunchujo said with a faint smile, "Big brother, I'm really sorry. Your conditions are too good. I'm not worthy of you. I know my own limits. A good-for-nothing like me is really sorry to delay your marriage. I only wish to have a place to cultivate." The burly man's eyes flickered. No matter what, he had to get rid of the 2 men first. These 2 men were not weak. If they fought, even if they could win, they would probably suffer a great loss. As for this little punk, there was still a long way to go. He was not afraid that she would not comply. Hence, he laughed and said, "All right, since you don't think that you are worthy of me, I won't force you. Let the 2 of them go. I will arrange for you to cultivate in the cave." Yun Chujo nodded. "I will talk to them over there and then let them leave." Although Di Baiming and Aog did not know what Yun Chujo was up to, they still followed Yun Chujo to the exit of the stone chamber. Yun Chujo did not say anything. She just used her finger to write on Di Baiming's palm, "If you don't go into the tiger's den, you won't get the tiger's son." Di Baiming immediately understood Yun Chuji's meaning. Only the evil spirits knew where the soul-gathering pearl was. If they fought it head-on, even if the 3 of them could escape unscathed, they probably would not be able to get the soul-gathering pearl. If they were forced into a corner, those evil spirits would probably jump over the wall and destroy the soul-gathering pearl. If that was the case, it would really be a futile effort. Yun Chuji's intention was very clear. She wanted to blend in with the evil spirits first and find out the whereabouts of the 5 soul-gathering pearls. After that, she would make the next step. Chapter 4485, The Rules of the 10,000 Ghost Lair. To be honest, Di Baiming was not at ease with Yun Chujo staying alone in the 10,000 Ghost Lair. Putting everything else aside, just the fact that the burly man said that there were more men than women made him uneasy. Wasn't this like a sheep entering the tiger's mouth? Aog also felt that it was not safe to do so, but he learned his lesson and did not say anything. Instead, he waited at the side for Di Baiming to make a decision. Di Baiming looked at Yun Chuji's determined gaze and finally nodded. He believed in her, just as she believed in him. Di Baiming nodded slightly, then turned around and walked out of the cave. When Aog saw this, he looked at Yun Chujo worriedly and followed Di Baiming. Yun Chujo looked at Aog's small steps and felt an indescribable feeling in her heart. Why did she feel that Aog was now closer to the gigolo than to her? Did this guy just find out that he was right? Yun Chujo saw that the 2 of them had already gone far away, so she turned around and walked in front of the big man who called himself Master Hu. "Big brother, what do you think I should do next? I'm new here and I don't know anything. Please take care of me." The big man looked at Yun Chuji's beautiful face and felt an itch in his heart. However, Thinking about how there were more wolves and less meat in the den of 10,000 ghosts, if he was too reckless and scared the little beauty, she would probably be taken advantage of by others. Therefore, he restrained the greed in his heart and patted his chest. "Little drifter, don't worry, I will take care of you from now on. You can call me Lord Tiger from now on." "I don't know, how should I address you?" "Lord Tiger, my name is Little Jiu," Yun Chujiu said with a smile, but in her heart, she was cursing, "Lord Tiger. Sooner or later, I will make you a dead cat." Lord Tiger nodded. "Whether it's the cave of 10,000 spirits or the cave of 10,000 ghosts as outsiders say, one thing is right. There are nearly 10,000 people living here, so this rule is very important. Therefore, I'll first tell you about the rules here. Do you see those caves on the stone walls? The people on the first floor are the ones with the highest status. The higher you go, the lower your status will be. If a little drifter like you agrees to dual cultivate with me now, you can live with me in the caves on the first floor. If you don't agree, then according to your status, you can only live in the cave on the top floor. You have to know that the higher you go, the lower the amount of soul power you can absorb, and the longer it takes for you to condense a physical body, so, at this point, Lord Hu didn't continue speaking. Yun Chujiu naturally understood what he meant, but she only smiled and didn't say anything. Lord Hu was a little angry, but after thinking for a moment, he still suppressed his anger. He continued, "Apart from that, the people at the highest level are also responsible for taking care of those cabbages. If anyone dares to injure a cabbages, they will be killed and used as fertilizer for the cabbages." Lord Hu was most likely afraid that Yun Chujiu would not know how powerful it was, so he added, "These cabbages are used to worship the ghost ancestor, so you must be careful. If you really touch the cabbages, I won't be able to save you." Yun Chujiu's heart was like a beeping dog. She did not know if the ghost ancestor was sick or if these evil spirits were sick. What was so good about these lousy cabbages on the street? Even if it was for the sake of earning money, it was fine to carve a stone cabbage and place it at the entrance of the cave, but there were actually so many of them. Moreover, if one touched it, one's head would fall off. If this was not sick, then what was? Although she was cursing silently, Hei Xingjiu still nodded her head with a kind expression on her face. Lastly, every 10 days, everyone will have a chance to cultivate close to the soul-gathering pearl. There's a reason for this. The stronger the person, the higher the rank. With a weakling like you, you can only be ranked at the bottom, Lord Tiger said. Chapter 4486, Black Mole Between the Eyebrows. Master Hu, it seems that we can't see each other's cultivation here. How can we distinguish the strong and the weak? Yun Chujiu asked curiously. Master Hu said casually, "Isn't that simple? We can just have a fight. Also, you see the 5 black moles between my eyebrows, right? This means that I'm a 5-star black rank, one of the best in this 10,000 ghost lair." Yun Chujiu almost laughed out loud. What the hell? The black mole between this idiot's brows represented cultivation. She thought it was a pockmark. Moreover, wasn't this too terrible? If he cultivated to a certain level, wouldn't he have a face full of black moles? Although this fellow thought it was funny in his heart, his face was full of admiration. Lord Hu is indeed amazing. Then I wonder what the lowest cultivation is. Lord Hu straightened his back, obviously enjoying Yun Chujiu's flattery. He grinned and said, "The lowest is naturally a new drifter like you who doesn't have a mole. After you cultivate for a period of time, a 1-star black mole will appear between your brows, which means that your cultivation level has reached 1-star black rank." Yun Chujiu was stunned. As long as she transformed into a human, there would be a red mole between her brows. Could it be that she didn't have a red mole between her brows now? She temporarily put down the doubts in her heart and asked, "So they are all black moles? I thought there would be other colors." "It's not that there are no other colors. It's just that, forget it. There's no need to talk too much with a new drifter like you. You probably don't know how to use the air controlling technique even though you've just cultivated it. Do you see the stone stairs at the side? You can climb up along them. When you reach the 18th floor, you can just randomly find an empty cave. Big Tiger Grandpa pointed at the stone stairs in the distance and said. Even though Hei Shinjo had a lot of questions, she still thanked him profusely. Then, she bade goodbye to Big Tiger and walked down the stone stairs. Big Tiger watched from not too far away and calculated in his heart that the stone stairs were very steep. The little drifter was also a newcomer and her body was very weak. He reckoned that she would know when it was difficult and retreat. Then, he could take advantage of the situation and take her as his dual cultivation partner. Although this little drifter was so weak that it was unbearable to look at, she was really beautiful. Lord Hu was thinking about something beautiful when he saw Yun Chujo had already climbed up the stone stairs and was climbing up with great difficulty. Lord Hu thought to himself, this is just the beginning. Soon, she won't be able to hold on anymore. When that time comes, I can take the opportunity to be a hero and save the damsel in distress. I'm not afraid that she won't fall in love with me. However, Lord Hu saw that even though Yun Chujo was so tired that she stopped several times in the middle, she still climbed up to the 18th floor and randomly chose a cave to enter. Lord Hu was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He did not expect this little punk to be so tough. Just as he was getting angry, he heard a gentle voice from behind, Lord Hu, TSK, are you taking a fancy to this new beauty? What? Do you think she's prettier than me? Or is Lord Hu no longer interested in me? The person who spoke was a woman with 3 black moles on her forehead. Although her looks could not be compared to Yun Chujius, she was considered above average in this 10,000 ghost lair. When Lord Hu saw the woman, he immediately hugged her waist and said, Li Ji, little beauty, are you jealous? Even if I became a dual cultivation partner with that little drifter, you are still my darling. How could I forget you? Today, you accompany me well. When the soul-gathering pearl opens, I will move your seat forward. Li Ji then turned her anger into a smile and said gently, I'm just afraid that you'll forget about me. As for who you become a dual cultivation partner with, that has nothing to do with me. Lord Hu teased a few more times and left with Li Ji in his arms. During this time, Li Ji turned her head to look at the cave where Yun Chujo was, and a trace of killing intent flashed in her eyes. Chapter 4487, Chu Mo. Yun Chujo did not know that Li Ji had the intention to kill her. This fellow was currently having a heart attack in the cave. Only after a while did she realize that she could no longer use the previous cultivation methods. She could not even use her inner vision of her Dantian, much less absorb soul power. Just as this fellow was feeling vexed, someone knocked on the dilapidated wooden door at the entrance of the cave. Yun Chujo opened the wooden door and saw a woman standing at the door. To be exact, it was a very fat lady. The fat lady was stunned when she saw Yun Chuji's appearance. A hint of inferiority flashed in her eyes. The inferiority flashed in the fat lattice eyes. She smiled and said, Hello, my name is Chu Mo. I live next door to you. Although Yun Chujo did not know what Chu Mo's intention was, she was in a hurry to find someone to clear her doubts, so she said with a smile, So it's Sister Mo. You can call me Little Jo. Please come in. Yun Chujo noticed that there were 3 black moles between the fat girl's brows, and she was puzzled. Logically speaking, this fat girl had already reached the 3rd star of black grade, so why was she still living on the 18th floor? After the fat girl entered Yun Chuji's cave, Yun Chujo suddenly felt that her cave had become even more narrow and closed. The cave was empty, so Chu Mo did not care and directly sat on the ground. Seeing this, Yun Chujo could only sit on the ground and said with a smile, Sister Mo, I'm new here and don't know anything. Please take care of me in the future. Chu Mo smiled and nodded. Little Jo, since we are neighbors, we naturally have to help each other. Yun Chujo said a few polite words and then said, Sister Mo, I came here to condense a physical body. But how can I absorb soul power? Chu Mo smiled and said, The cultivation methods outside naturally won't work. Let me teach you a set of methods to absorb soul power. Chu Mo immediately taught Yun Chujo a set of cultivation methods. In fact, it was similar to the methods to cultivate essence energy and spirit energy, but there were only slight differences. Yun Chujo was naturally extremely grateful to Chu Mo, but it wasn't good to ask too many questions since they had just met. Chu Mo seemed to have seen through it and smiled. Little Joe, I won't hide it from you. Because of my physique, I've been ridiculed and despised many times. When you saw me, there wasn't the slightest bit of abnormality. Just based on this point, I'm definitely going to make a friend of yours. If you have anything you want to ask, just ask. Hearing that, Yun Chujo smiled and said, Sister Mo, this looks and figure is just a bag of skin. Those who judge people by their looks are all idiots. I won't do such a stupid thing. Chu Mo smiled bitterly and said, that being said, I'm still a little too fat, but there's nothing I can do about it. Unless I condense a physical body in the future, I can only think of ways to become slimmer. Yun Chujo saw that Chu Mo's mood was a little depressed, so she changed the topic and said, Sister Mo, were you brought to this 10,000 ghost lair by the ghost ancestor? Chu Mo nodded and said, the people inside are basically all brought here by the ghost ancestor, except for you. Yun Chujo said in puzzlement, according to what you said, my situation is very special. Then why aren't you and Master Hu surprised to see me? Chu Mo explained, although your situation is special, there were some people who came here in the past who were in a similar situation as you. However, the weak are prey to the strong in this 10,000 ghost cave. They will be killed in a short time. Yun Chujo nodded. This was understandable. A strong dragon did not suppress a local snake. Those who came later would inevitably be ostracized. In addition, their strength was very weak, so it was normal for them to be killed. Chapter 4488 Hungry, Sister Mo, then tell me about the ghost ancestor. Since you were brought here by the ghost ancestor, you must have lived here for nearly 10,000 years, right? Yun Chujo asked curiously. Chu Mo smiled and shook her head. Little Joe, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but when we were brought to the ghost territory by the ghost ancestor, all the past events were wiped clean, and we can't remember anything. Moreover, for some unknown reason, we had lost our intelligence for a long period of time. We were muddle-headed and killed everyone we saw. It was only recently that we regained our intelligence. We only have a few bits of memories of the ghost ancestor. You've seen those cabbages, right? Most of us only remember that the ghost ancestors said that cabbages were a source of wealth. That's why we planted those cabbages. Yun Chujo nodded her head. Speaking of which, it made sense. If these people had been absorbing soul power, they would have already condensed their physical bodies. They wouldn't still be trapped here. No wonder AOG said that the 10,000 ghost lair was very brutal. It was probably because those people had entered the 10,000 ghost lair a long time ago. These evil spirits had lost their intelligence at that time, so they were naturally very brutal. Just as Yun Chujo was thinking about it, her stomach began to growl. She instantly felt that she was going to starve to death. Ever since she became a drifter, she couldn't eat anything. She had always been hungry. Now that she had a physical body, she naturally felt very hungry. Sister Mo, do you have anything to eat? I'm going to starve to death. Yun Chujo said pitifully. Chu Mo was stunned. Hungry? Although we have physical bodies here, it's only because of the effect of the array formation. But in reality, we don't have a body, so how can we be hungry? Yun Chujo, that's true. Could it be that she was just psychological? Yun Chujo resisted the growing hunger and said a few words to Chu Mo. Seeing that she was absent-minded, Chu Mo tactfully bid her farewell. After Yun Chujo sent Chu Mo off, she was so hungry that she wanted to scratch the wall. She was iron rice and steel. She was so hungry after not eating. She had not eaten for a month, how could she not be hungry? She was so hungry. This fellow had wandered around the cave for dozens of times, but he still could not find anything edible. He could not possibly gnaw on stones and wooden doors, right? This fellow was so hungry that he could not stand it. He walked outside the cave and looked around. Outside the cave was a narrow corridor. There were many caves in the corridor, some were occupied, and some were empty. This fellow took a lucky break and entered the ownerless caves to take a stroll. Unfortunately, he didn't find anything to eat. This fellow's gaze fell on the cabbage that was offered to the ghost ancestor. In the past, this fellow didn't like to eat vegetables the most. But now, looking at those cabbage, he was practically craving for it. If he were to hug a cabbage and take a few bites, what a wonderful thing it would be. Thinking of this fellow blamed D. Biming and AOG. These two idiots didn't even mention leaving some food for her when they left. They were planning to starve her to death. She didn't even think about it. She hadn't eaten anything for more than a month. How would D. Biming and AOG think of leaving anything for her to eat? Although this fellow was so hungry that she was about to cry, her remaining rationality told her that although cabbage was good, her life was more important. If she secretly ate the cabbage on the table, she probably wouldn't be able to live. Therefore, this fellow swallowed his saliva and obediently returned to his cave. However, as soon as she entered the cave, Chu Mo knocked on the door again. "Little Jill, let's go. It's time to work." "Work?" Yun Chujo then remembered what Master Hu said about taking care of the cabbage. Once they left the stone room, they would have no physical body, so how would they take care of the cabbage? Chapter 4489, The miserable Hei Shinjo. Yun Chujo walked out of the stone room with a belly full of curiosity. Then, she saw Chu Mo directly use the air-bending technique to float down. Yun Chujo, Chu Mo landed on the ground. Only then did she realize that Yun Chujo did not know the air-bending technique. It was just that the air-bending technique could not carry anything too heavy, so she could not help. Hei Shinjo climbed down the stone stairs with a loud thud. As this fellow was climbing slowly, the people behind her were cursing and urging her. There was even someone who threatened her, "Little trash, hurry up and climb, or he'll push you down to your death." Hei Shinjo was holding her anger in her heart. However, she was new and did not want to cause any trouble. The black books in her heart had recorded all these people. It would not be too late for little Jio to take revenge. She would see. Hei Shinjo was so tired that she was panting. She finally climbed down the stone stairs. This guy was already very weak, and he was starving to death. Now, he felt that he was only left with half his life. Hei Shinjo made up her mind. No matter what, she had to learn the air-controlling technique first. Otherwise, it would be too tiring to go back and forth. Seeing that Yun Chujo was staggering, Chu Mo quickly went up to support her. Before she could say anything, she heard a sarcastic voice saying, "TSK TSK, the fat pig and the trash are together. It's really a group of people." Yun Chujo turned her head and saw a woman with 3 black moles between her eyebrows standing not far away with a face full of ridicule. "Li Ji, watch your mouth. If you have the ability, let's fight," Chu Mo said angrily. Li Ji curled her lips. "I'm not going to fight with a fat pig like you. My delicate skin is not as thick as yours. With your pride, you can stay in the 18th level for the rest of your life." It was obvious that Chu Mo had been poked in a sore spot. He immediately walked towards Li Ji. Li Ji's face revealed a hint of panic. Although she and Chu Mo were both at Black Star level 3, if they really fought, she was not Chu Mo's match. Moreover, once they were defeated by Chu Mo, their caves would be swapped. Li Ji hurriedly called out in a coquettish voice, "Lord Hu, Chu Mo, that ugly freak is bullying me again. Quickly come out and help me vent my anger." Following Li Ji's shout, Lord Hu walked out from the cave. He said disdainfully, "Fat woman, are you looking for trouble again? If you don't know your place, I will kill you." Chu Mo clenched her fists. She was still not Lord Hu's match. If they really fought, she would definitely lose. Seeing this, Yun Chujo walked up to Chu Mo and tugged at her sleeve. Sister Mo, didn't you say it was time to work? Let's go, or it'll be too late. Chu Mo knew that Yun Chujo was helping her out, so he turned around and walked towards Yun Chujo. When Lord Hu saw Yun Chujo, his eyes immediately lit up. He wanted to go forward and say something, but Li Ji found an excuse to coax him back into the cave. Li Ji sneered in her heart. A new little girl still wanted to snatch her man. Dream on. She could be killed with just a simple trick. Yun Chujo saw that Chu Mo's expression was not very good, so she carefully said, Sister Mo, there's no need to be angry with that kind of person. Oh right, we'll become drifters once we leave this stone room. How are we going to take care of those cabbages? Chu Mo's expression eased up a little and said, there's a secret art that can temporarily maintain a certain amount of time after using it. The length of time depends on your cultivation base. I'll teach you the mnemonic chant now. I reckon that you don't have a cultivation base now, so you can only maintain it for a very short time. Chapter 4490, Taking Care of Chinese Cabbages. Yun Chujo suddenly understood. She had said that if the evil spirit did not have a physical body, how could it plant so many Chinese cabbages? Sister Mo, then where did you get the seeds of Chinese cabbages? Yun Chujo asked curiously. Weren't there some people who had designs on soul-gathering beads before? After we killed them, we found them in their storage rings, Chu Mo explained. These cabbages were different from the ones Yun Chujo had seen in other continents. They were common cabbages in the ghost region, so it was normal to find a few seeds in those people's storage rings. Then, Chu Mo told Yun Chujo the method to condense a physical body for the time being. As soon as Chu Mo finished the chant, a man shouted, What are you all standing there for? Hurry up and get to work. Yun Chujo turned around and saw a square-faced middle-aged man with a whip in his hand. Chu Mo dragged Yun Chujo towards the tunnel. He lowered his voice and said, This is Luan Xiong, who is in charge of the 18th floor. If you fail to complete the mission, you will be whipped. But don't worry, I will help you complete your mission. Yun Chujo naturally thanked him profusely. However, she was very puzzled in her heart. What did he mean by taking care of the cabbages? She saw that the cabbages were very beautiful. How else would they need to be taken care of? The people on the 18th floor flew into the tunnel. Naturally, they would not waste their short physical time on the journey. Yun Chujo followed Chu Mo and floated to the end of the tunnel. Chu Mo was obviously ostracized. She was arranged to take care of the 5 cabbages at the end of the tunnel. Yun Chujo, the new doormat, was arranged to sit beside Chu Mo. Yun Chujo saw that their arranged position was very close to the exit. She could not help but stretch her neck to look outside. She wanted to see if Di Baiming and Aog were nearby. However, she was stunned to find that there was a layer of enchantment not far from them. It was really strange. Why didn't they find this enchantment when they came in earlier? Chu Mo seemed to have noticed her doubt. She lowered her voice and said, When you came in earlier, it was probably Lord Tiger who removed the barrier, so you guessed that you came in unimpeded. Yun Chujo nodded and retracted her gaze. She looked at the 10 dainty Chinese cabbages. To be honest, if it wasn't for his strong willpower, he would have already pounced on them and nibbled on them. This fellow was usually unhappy without meat. He never imagined that the cabbage that he usually despised would actually look so delicious now. This fellow swallowed his saliva. Big Sister Mo, how are we going to take care of these cabbage? I reckon that you won't be able to condense a physical body for long. Don't waste your soul power. Just watch from the side. After saying that, Chu Mo condensed a physical body. After that, she formed a seal with both hands. A faint halo appeared on her hands as she carefully stopped above a cabbage. Yun Chujo was surprised to discover that the cabbage that was illuminated by the halo had actually grown at a speed visible to the naked eye. Furthermore, it looked even more dainty. Yun Chujio guessed that the halo should be soul power. These cabbage were actually nourished by soul power. What a reckless waste of natural resources. However, it was also true. The interior of the tunnel was very dark. Although there were some illuminating beads placed on the ceiling of the cave, they couldn't be compared to the sunlight. If it wasn't for the special methods used to take care of it, it wouldn't be able to grow so dainty. Taking care of these cabbages clearly consumed a lot of soul power. By the time Chumo finished all 10 cabbages, her face had turned extremely pale. This was because Chumo's cultivation base had already reached the black rank 3-star. Some people had even collapsed onto the ground, panting heavily. On one hand, Yun Chujio was extremely grateful to Chumo. On the other hand, she thought of a very crucial problem. These cabbages couldn't possibly continue to grow like this, right? What if they matured? Would she just let them rot in the ground? If that was the case, it would be too wasteful. She might as well let her eat them. Chapter 4491, Cleaning the Statue. Yun Chujio explained her question, and Chumo smiled. How can they be allowed to rot in the ground? After these cabbages mature, apart from being used to worship the ghost ancestor, they also need to be used to worship the soul-gathering pearl. Yun Chujio was stunned. What was that? Used to worship the soul-gathering pearl? It was understandable to worship the ghost ancestor, but what did it mean to worship the soul-gathering pearl? Yun Chujio wanted to ask more questions, but Wan Xiong, who was in charge of managing the 18th floor, urged everyone to return to the stone room as soon as possible. Yun Chujio could only swallow her questions back into her stomach and prepared to ask more questions when she returned to the cave. When this fellow passed by those dainty cabbages, it was simply torturous. If only she could hug a cabbages and take a few bites now. There were so many cabbages in front of her, but she did not cherish them. If she was given another chance, she would definitely eat enough. Hei Shinjo floated back to the stone room with difficulty. She was about to climb the stone stairs when she heard Wan Xiong say, "That newcomer, clean the statue of the ghost ancestor properly. If you don't clean it properly, humph." Chumo was about to stay and help when Wan Xiong said coldly, "Chumo, it's fine if you helped her to take care of the cabbage just now. If you meddle in other people's business again, you don't have to go to the opening of the soul-gathering pearl this time." Hearing that, Yun Chujio hurriedly said to Chumo, "Sister Mo, you go back first. I'll do it myself." Chumo had no choice but to remind her, "You must be careful when you clean it. Don't damage the statue, or you'll be severely punished." "Got it, I will be careful." Chumo glanced at Yun Chujio worriedly, then used the levitation spell to return to the cave. Wan Xiong asked someone to pass Yun Chujio the tools to wipe the statue, then turned around and left. The rest of the people gloated over Yun Chujio's misfortune and left as well. Yun Chujio looked at the water basins and rags, wondering if these things were also obtained from the people who entered the cave. However, where did this water come from? Yun Chujio felt that there were many questions in the cave of 10,000 ghosts, but her thoughts were quickly distracted by the cabbages on the table. The juicy cabbages were now very attractive to the hungry Hei Shinjo. This guy had an idea. This guy took the rags and began to wipe the table. However, under the cover of his body and the statue, this guy grabbed a small piece of cabbages and stuffed it into his mouth. The clear and sweet juice instantly filled his mouth, and Hei Shinjo almost cried with happiness. It was too damn delicious. This was not cabbage, it was obviously nectar. However, this small piece of cabbage leaf completely aroused Hei Xinjia's craving. This guy thought that he would not stop until he was done. Anyway, this cabbage was different from other vegetables, so no one would be able to tell if he broke off a few leaves. Therefore, like an ant moving house, she quickly ate 3 pieces of cabbage leaf. Just as she was about to continue eating, she saw Wan Xiong walking over. She quickly wiped her mouth with her sleeve and continued to wipe the sacrificial table. Wan Xiong walked up to her and frowned. "Are you stupid? Why do you keep wiping the sacrificial table? Why don't you wipe the statue?" Master, I don't know how to control the air, and the statue of the ghost ancestor is very tall. I don't know what to do, Yun Chujiu said hesitantly. Wan Xiong said with a fake smile, you have to think of a way yourself. However, if you can stay with me for one night, I can get someone to help you do it. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.